All right, this should be episode 35 of the show that we call Both Laugh, the Dying Scene Quarantine Chat Show. I'm really excited to be joined by all of Kali Masi today, America's favorite rock and roll band, which is a callback to any of you that might have watched the album release show a couple of weeks ago. America's favorite rock and roll band, Kali Masi. We have Sam and John and Wes and Anthony, all four of them. We've never done a full band episode like this before, so it's going to be really cool. Hopefully people actually watch it on YouTube, because I'm sure it'll be confusing as fuck if you try to listen on a podcast. But anyway, thank you,
let
Kali
Wes
Masi.
do most of the talking.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. So we're the name of the game obviously is we're going to talk quite a bit about Laughs, which is the new album, and how perfect that I just randomly called this show Both Laugh, because I used to do a lot of print interviews, and then since the website took a shit, so what I used to do in print interviews is every time obviously I would laugh and the other person would laugh while we're having a conversation, I like to put it in there because it shows a little bit of humanity or whatever, and to me, it was cooler than just reading through text or whatever. And so somebody years ago said, if you ever wrote like a book or did a podcast or whatever, you'd have to call it Both Laugh. And I said, so this is episode 35.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. And so the album is called Laughs, and it's in brackets, just like if you were reading an interview or if you're watching closed captioning on TV. So sort of weird symmetry there.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I want to start. So first off, are you guys all in Chicago right now? Is everybody, how are things in Chicago right now? Because we've obviously got pretty, yet another heartbreaking story in the news today from Chicago. How is everybody holding up? Shit's weird again, still.
It's weird. I don't know. I'm sure everybody feels differently, but probably similarly, but it's obviously super frustrating on a lot of levels that this continues to happen. And it's when it's happening in your city, not that it makes a difference where it's happening, but it is, I don't know. It's just like, it's hard to keep perspective. It's so frustrating and enraging.
You do sort of become numb to it because it happens all the time. And then this one today, when I saw the young man, Adam Toledo, is 13 and my daughter is 13. And so it's a kind of like, that's the first time one of a situation like this has been brought home sort of like that quite literally, like, he's the same age as my child.
Yeah.
It's a mind fuck.
Seems like an inevitability with the people that are running our city right now. It's not an inevitability in general, but I think that like people need to, so I don't know, people need to really start thinking about how we're organizing things in our city and do something about it. Because the people who are up there right now it's just going to keep happening with people like that in power. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's probably the case in an awful lot of big cities. And I think Chicago kind of gets shit on sometimes unfairly for some of that. Although, like you said, sometimes it's the people that are in charge aren't really steering the ship in the right direction.
Totally.
I want to start this episode sort of the way that I start most every episode. The whole idea of doing Both Laugh was at the start of quarantine once the website went down and I couldn't do written things anymore, I sort of focused on doing concert photography, and now you can't do concert photography for the next foreseeable future. But one of the things I wanted to talk about with people is sort of what they were doing when the world sort of shut down, and then what they continued to do to sort of stay creative and to try new things during quarantine. You guys have sort of an interesting perspective because if I have the timeline correct, you guys were here in Massachusetts with Jay quite literally as the world was shutting down, correctly?
Yeah.
Yes.
So how much of that were you kind of aware of? It seemed to me from where we were that there was really a span of like 36 hours or whatever in March where it seemed like things maybe in a couple of weeks we get back to normal, and then by the end of that week it was like, no, we're fucked. How much of that were you guys sort of conscious of as you were up the street here recording and all that?
When we were in Massachusetts, I personally just thought it was a thing that was going on that was going to pass, just like there are always things going on every day. But
Right.
I don't think it really hit me until we got home and we got together and we practiced once, and then shows started getting canceled and tours started being ended.
Yeah, and it seemed like in Massachusetts, I feel like I think Seattle had sort of a big outbreak at first, but here in Massachusetts, we kind of did as well. We were on that early bubble because there was a biotech conference that turned into like this super spreader event. So we had an awful lot of positives in a really short amount of time, like in March, basically just as you guys were leaving. But
Well, we actually in the middle of recording while we were in Massachusetts, Jay had like a project that he got hired to go do for like a day out on the West Coast, and he actually like left the session to fly to where he was in Portland, I think.
Yeah.
And literally the day that he woke up to go do the thing was the day that they shut down like Oswego County or whatever, because they had one of their earliest outbreaks. So
right.
he ended up not being able to do the thing that he went out there to do because of it. But so that was like, we were, weirdly almost affected by it in like a direct way.
Yeah.
At one of the very earliest stages of it happening, in the States, like stateside. So it was weird. And everything after that feels like watching a slow motion train wreck or something like that,
Yeah, it was weird. He got back from the thing out in Seattle or wherever he was in the Pacific Northwest, and like it was just kind of a weird story. Like he was just like, yeah, this is crazy. Like the whole city was shut down, and like obviously, hindsight's 2020 or whatever. But it just
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it was going to be what it was, obviously. But it was very weird that, like during our session, and then it just so happened to seem like we I don't know, sat on a record through a quarantine. It just, the timing of it was so weird to release a record like this far after or into the lockdown, into COVID. We mixed it all through lockdown, and I don't know. Yeah, it was just crazy good timing to finish this record when we did, I think.
There was never talk of like postponing recording sessions at the beginning stage, whereas there wasn't like,
No.
it was still early enough.
Yeah.
It was never that close to, it just was right up against when things started getting weird. It was like when we all got back to work in Chicago was when things started seeming kind of funny,
Yeah. What would 2020 have looked like for you had coronavirus not happened? I know you had at least a trip to Pooza planned and stuff like that, but what else was on the radar for 2020 had things gone the way they should have?
We're supposed to go back to Europe in the summer. And I'm sure we would have probably kicked up some other tour plans around that. And we were going to go down to Fest and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think the record still would have come out exactly when it did. But yeah, we did cancel some plans and some shows and stuff like that.
Was there talk, at least at first, of postponing stuff? Because it seemed for a while like a lot of people were trying to postpone things from March, April, May to, by August or September or October, things will be back to normal. So was there that talk, or were you guys kind of early on, let's just punt until this is all over?
I think the first, what's up?
Do classic Zoom stuff right here.
Yeah, right.
The first run of our Europe tour got postponed until what was it, January 2020 or winter 2021.
Right.
And so that's been postponed like 2 or 3 times now.
Is that what you have on deck for November? Is that sort of the next, like a postponement of that?
Yeah. In a way, yeah. I think like, I mean, we sort of waited until it's like you said, like it at the beginning of the whole thing, it kind of seemed like maybe it would blow over in a couple weeks, and then it started turning into like, I don't know, it might be a couple months. And like we had that thing, like you said, to go up to Pooza in May of last year, and it was kind of like, I think we just kind of, but by the time it made sense for us to like, by the time it was like certainly like not gonna happen,
Yeah.
it was like obvious that it wasn't gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like we barely had to like announce that it wasn't happening. I think we posted a thing that was just like, by the way, obviously these shows aren't happening. You know, like.
Right. But so you
yeah.
guys didn't have to cancel. I mean, obviously it was canceled anyway, but you guys didn't have to back out of it. It was just like they kind of said, we're not doing it, right?
Yeah, it was kind of just at that point. I think any plans that or any conversations of anything that we had, it seemed obvious that they were going to be off the table. But it was weird because all these shows started getting pushed to like July of last year and then August of last year and stuff. And we were just like, what are we going to do when we want to start playing shows again? And then it just, at some point, it just completely, I mean, for me anyway, it just completely left my mind. Like, we're not playing shows anytime soon. So why even try to pretend like we are?
Has that been a weird thing to wrap your head around, the idea of not playing shows indefinitely? Like, how do you sort of adjust to that or cope to that as working musicians?
I mean, we've had a lot to work on, in the quarantine time, just with the record and everything, but also like, we recorded the record, right before the lockdown, and so we didn't really get a good shot at like learning the songs, how they ended up on the record. Some of them, some of them we like really finished them in the studio, and so like, I mean, it's been a cool challenge to kind of like, when we do get together, like try and become a really tight live band with these songs that we've never played for anybody yet. And I'm glad that we've had the time to do that, because we had a show booked like pretty much right when it all went down, and we were like, I remember like the first time we got back to practice, we practiced the one time, and we were kind of trying to put together a set list of new songs, and we weren't that good at them yet, so we're getting good at the songs we wrote. Nice.
Yeah, so a lot of these songs weren't you said they were finished in studio, so they weren't necessarily written and played live and sort of honed down to what they became prior to recording them. It was really from in the studio.
Oh yeah, a few of them just weren't like, we rearranged a couple things. A couple of them just, there's just last minute changes. There was 2 of them that I didn't have any lyrics to, so that was just like, and then like writing lyrics to them, recording the lyrics to them, and then being like, oh, I have to play guitar too. I have to play guitar while I play these, so got to get good at that now. It's been fun. It's been a cool challenge, and we've like definitely changed up kind of like our live, just how we approach being a live band. It's been cool to kind of relearn.
For those people that are actually going to watch this, I'll pretend I'm a talk show host. I'll hold up the album. You can see my ring light. There's Laughs. As I have said, it's one of my favorite albums of the year. As we were talking about before we started recording, you came up here to Massachusetts and worked with Maas. I know you worked with him on wind instruments, but you didn't record that here, right? You recorded out there somewhere?
Yeah, at Atlas Studios.
Okay. So how was the experience at the Maas household? I know they're great and whatever, but how was it like being here, moving the whole Kali Masi camp to the Maas camp?
Wes drove. So Wes, you tell us about your experience.
I mean, it was wonderful because since we recorded the first album in 2016, 17, whatever that was, we have gotten to see like Jay and Jesse pretty frequently. in the time between. So I think we really like sort of built like a friendship with them. So by the time we got there to record, it was just like a really welcoming, comfortable experience. I mean, I'm sure that's how they treat, like I'm sure any band that goes and records there and stays are comfortable, but it was nice that we had already, we were already friends. So it was, there was a sort of no hump to get over, like comfortability wise. We could just hop in and do it because, we're all familiar. And the drive was long. I would just like to point out it was definitely, it was a lot.
What is Chicago to Haverhill in a straight shot? Is that what, like 12 hours maybe? Somewhere in there?
18.
Is it?
I feel like it shouldn't be.
You drove like 18 hours straight on the way home.
No, it was like 12 because we like woke up early and then and it ended up being longer because we had to stop. But yeah, on the way back, John kept asking me, "Do you want to trade off?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." And yeah, just drove the whole way.
Wes is a beast, man.
I think that it was
very sore.
I think it was helpful for us all four to take off work for 2 weeks and then all go out of state, kind of away from our home lives and away from our work lives, and all be in the same area working on this creative project. So there isn't like half of us are gone at work and showing up every few days or whatever to do their parts. Like I recorded drums first in the first 3 or 4 days, and then the rest of the trip was just me sitting in the room supporting the band, which got boring sometimes, but overall, like, I think it's a cool way to do it, because we're all kind of there and it feels collaborative. And even if I say like one small suggestion, like every 2 days, it's just like, hey, this is a thing we're all doing together,
Totally.
And we all slept in the same room. They're like bunk beds in the same room. And I don't know, there's like a tour feeling to that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it does feel like you're in your own little studio apartment world down there, doesn't it? He's got a good thing there.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say that's got to be a little bit of a different recording experience if you're used to finishing drums and then kind of going back to your normal routine, to have to be there for the next week and a half or whatever while things are getting written and rewritten and moved around. Do you have to then go back and re-record drum things? Like were you that actively writing in the studio that songs would change that way, or does that even make sense?
No, that makes sense. They were fleshed out enough where like we knew what we were doing for drums and like the structures of most songs.
I feel like there's a special sort of shout out warranted for both John and Anthony as the rhythm section of the band, because there's so much going on melodically that I feel like, especially on this album, that you guys do a wonderful job of really providing sort of an anchor, because like there's a lot of tempo changes, there's a lot of big melodies, there's even the vocal melodies sort of start and stop and go up and down. And I think that a special sort of really shout out is warranted for both of you, because there's a lot going on and it could have been very easy to sort of drift away and lose that sort of structure. So you guys did a dynamite job on this album.
Thank you, man. That's really nice of you to say. I think, I honestly sometimes don't know how we held all this stuff together, because some of it really is like pretty, like a lot of the, it's funny, like a lot of the bass lines that people like have pointed out to me and stuff, they're like, how'd you come up with that? I'm like, that was always a part of that. So like, that's something that Sam told me I had to do there, and like, I thought it was going to be weird, and then somehow it completely worked out. Like there's, I don't know how some of this stuff, there ends up being some kind of glue. I think just that eventually we all just kind of committed to some of the weirdness of it, you know what I mean? And it just, I don't know, it works. But I'm glad that other people think that it works too, because there was definitely some potential for some like pile up chaos kind of stuff. And a lot of that also, I mean, it has to be said that Jay and Dave, who is the like co-engineer, assistant engineer on the record. I mean, those guys just they killed it on the production stuff. So, as far as just everything coming together in that way, I mean, we could not have done it without people who were just as committed to making it all work as we were. So it was very cool.
You talked about the weirdness. I think that's sort of an appropriate word to use. And it seems like you kind of took the stuff that, like the seeds that were sort of planted on Wind Instrument, and just kind of let them blossom on Laughs. I think maybe off the top of my head, Trophy Deer comes probably the closest to being just sort of a transition, like a traditional verse, chorus, bridge, repeat, to quote Tim Barry. Trophy Deer seems to be the closest to that sort of a song, but there's some moments like Hurts to Laugh, Still Life. There's a lot of different tempos and a lot of different things stitched together, which I find fascinating. And I'm curious as to if those things are sometimes stitched together. Are they different ideas that you'll weave into a song, or do the songs sort of grow organically as you're writing them in all those different directions? Unless you don't want to give too much about how the sausage is made or whatever, but I find that shit fascinating.
We love the sausage.
That'll be the poll quote for the interview.
Kali Masi loves the sausage. I don't know. I think, Hurts to Laugh is an interesting example because that's a song, and I think they all are, but that's a song that specifically was scrutinized by all four of us, just like working it, reworking it. There was like at first it was like really like a 2-chord kind of 2-part song, and we just kept like, it wasn't working, and we just kept throwing shit at it to figure out what would work. So it went through like a lot of changes, and I think, with what you're saying about like the weirdness and like the rhythm section, kind of holding that together, I really think that like the amount of time that we spend on specific parts of songs, and every part in every song, is really why that it ends up working, is because we're just like, we wouldn't let it not work, and we just scrutinize everything so much. But back to your initial question, I mean, like a song like Still Life, I think was just kind of like, as it went along, it just kind of organically grew into what it was.
Is that hard to know when to put the brakes on, about sort of taking a song on a lot of different twists and turns sonically, or is it?
Well, Hurts to Laugh specifically was like, that was a song that like from the beginning, it was like, we liked it because it was so, really, it was pretty much just like the chorus didn't exist like at all. It wasn't a part of the song at all. It was, if you think about like the sort of like instrumental break before the last chorus there, like most of the song was just that. It was those 2 chords over and over and over in like different kind of dynamics. But for the most part, it was like just really straightforward. I likened it to like a Cloud Nothing song, kind of.
Oh, okay.
It was really just simple kind of garagey punk rock, and it was sort of like we were trying to figure out how we could like add something to it so that it felt like a whole song without adding too much. And then one day, or like maybe a couple days, Sam just came in and was just like, hey, I like basically wrote 3 whole new parts for this song. And we were just like, dude, like, I don't know. Cause like, it really just takes the whole idea of this thing, which is like, it's a simple, like, shitty punk song. and we're turning it into like another one of our like overtures. Like, it just seems like, kind of ridiculous. But a lot, really, I guess that all that is to say that like, it kind of comes down to, a lot of just kind of like the ideas that we were committed to in the beginning of the process. We had to be willing to just be like, well, no, like, fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, this is cooler. Let's do this instead. Hurts to Laugh is like the best example of that, because that song really does go all over the place, but it was nothing like that originally. It was very, very, very straightforward. And it just was sort of like, well, how do we build it into something that is actually like fucking interesting to listen to and like emotionally engaging and stuff. I mean, that, Sam is really, really good, I think, at doing that. I think we're all good at identifying when something's not working, but Sam's really good at actually solving the problem. So
there was like a whole section of that song that we were committed to that was like this up tempo swing part. It was like bum, 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 and we worked on it endlessly, like so much to get the feel right, and the song wasn't working. It wasn't working. We really liked it. We really wanted to like make it a song, and I was just like, that like thing popped in my head that people are always like, kill your darlings, and that was like my favorite part of the song. And I was like, what if we just took this part that we've been slaving over out and put something else there? And it like totally works. I don't know. I was like inspired by how boring it got without it to make a different part. I feel like,
That's wild. So, I mean, is that a situation where you think that swing part will become something else down the road, or is it just kind of put to bed?
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe we'll use the feel of it somewhere
else.
I
don't remember it, to be honest. I don't remember how it goes, so I think it's probably gone.
There was a cool lead in it. We might do something with it, but I don't know. Yeah.
One of the things that really sort of grabbed me about the album at first listen was even, I think, probably the first verse of Still Life, like the very first song on the album, where it almost feels like if people are familiar with Wind Instrument, there are a few songs where there's more gang vocals involved and things like that. And that is less the case on Laughs, but it feels like Still Life is sort of calling for it. Like that first verse, you can sort of feel yourself in a crowd singing, like yelling that back to you guys. If that sort of makes sense, is that sort of audience participation or interaction, is that sort of a thing that you try to shoot for when you're writing music? But like I said, I feel like that song in particular is one that really, from the very first time I heard it, grabbed me and said, yeah, I need to be standing like right in the front row yelling this back to them. Like it's that kind of a moment. But is that a thing that even factors in on the writing side? Is like people are going to like this and want to sing it with us?
I think lyrically, like that, I realize that it's something that people will sing along with after the fact. Maybe I'll be like writing lyrics and I'll be like, this is actually, this little piece right here is something that I think people will relate to. And that's kind of always my goal, is to like write stuff that like I really feel strongly about. And if I feel strongly about it, that's evidence to me that somebody else will too. But as far as like getting people to sing along with it, there's plenty of failed attempts at that in lots of music that we've written, where it's just like too many words going on, like not easy to grab onto. Not a lot of whoa stuff going on.
You're not the Bouncing Souls, right? I get it.
No.
Yeah.
Which I love the Bouncing Souls, but
you too,
know?
Man.
Yeah, I like your viewpoint on that, Sam. I think it would be kind of dorky to like go into songwriting and be like, I want to make something that like people are gonna chant, or whatever, or like I want to write something that people are gonna get stuck in their heads. I feel like it should be the other way, where you write something and then later you realize like this is good because people might like it like that, so then we should keep going forward with it after coming up with it,
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
I also kind of think that like words are powerful, music is powerful. A lot of times I have to remind myself that like when we're like writing songs, a lot of times for me, I like feel like when I'm writing a guitar part or something, that part, it already is like something in my head. It already means something to me. It's like already like a feeling or a story or like something I'm experiencing just in the music itself. But like that music usually will kind of put its own emotion onto whatever the words are. And the song I always think of is that Killer's song where he's like, I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. It's a meaningless phrase. It like doesn't really mean anything, but with music and stuff, you're like, I fucking believe whatever this is. You're like, and I think that's something that is so powerful in music, is it like really injects a lot of emotion into, I don't know, not like they're uninspired lyrics, but just like it can give a lot more power and meaning to something that's, you know, with the right music under it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see you guys play that. I mean, the whole album live, but a few of those songs in particular for that sort of reason, to see especially what people latch onto. And do people latch on to the songs that are the singles and the videos, or do people latch on to some of the other tracks? Because like I said, for me, I
think
latched
we
onto
are
that one
too.
from first listen.
Yeah,
We're
we don't
definitely
know. We
Yeah,
don't know what people are gonna latch onto at all, or even like what songs might not translate well live, or what songs will translate well live. We don't know yet. We'll find out someday.
We'll try them all.
Yeah, that's a weird. I hadn't quite thought about that in the context of bands that have been putting out new music throughout the quarantine. But that if people haven't seen you play those songs live yet, you don't know what they're going to like. They might give you their thoughts on the album as a whole, but until they see you do it live, and until you get their feedback from you playing it live, you don't know what's going to happen. That's a bizarre time that all of you are in.
Yeah.
We don't even know if people
Right.
like the record except when they post on their Instagram stories and then tag us. That's like the only fan interaction we've been getting.
Yeah,
But
and nobody
whatever.
exactly posts on their Instagram stories that, oh, I got this album and it's a steaming turd, right? Like people post because they like it. So
That could be happening all over the country right now. We just wouldn't know it, you know?
oh, I doubt it. It's worth mentioning that you guys have put out some really great videos for this, and that's not a thing that a lot of people necessarily do. The Guilt Like a Gun video seems like it was a monumental task to pull off, and I've watched it like 100 times, and I'm still like, wait, how did they do that?
That's awesome. That's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, and again, not to give how the sausage is made, but it seems like that was effectively one shot from overhead. I know the phones move around and that was a different thing, but I was like, damn, I can't figure out. I'm pretty sure that's one shot from overhead, and if it's not, they did a really fucking good job editing it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's one
so-
shot.
yep, all one shot. We took to do the little the actual video itself with the party and all that. We just did it a bunch of times. We had sort of a kind of a game plan how we were going to move the phones and stuff, and then otherwise just had our the people helping us out as well. Like we would just kind of make a party scene, try different things, see what works, and just do it a bunch of times until we kind of like, okay, things link up, looks believable, that's good. So it took quite a few hours just
It's
for that
funny
bit.
because like the whole idea of like you know, I mean, because there's something like, and we kind of knew that it would kind of come off as like more impressive if it like, you know, came off like it was like one, you know, sort of seamless, cohesive thing or whatever. But what's funny is that like it would have been harder for us to figure out ways to edit around the whole thing than it was. I mean, a couple of times, like the idea of just like bringing up ideas of just like, oh, and then we can like cut it and edit it so that it's like blah 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 blah. And those always got vetoed like immediately, because it's like that's gonna be way fucking harder than if we just choreograph everything. I mean, Sam and Wes, like they spent like several days just like with like pieces of paper and like little like game pieces, just like choreographing everything meticulously. And I mean, that's the only reason that it works is because there was so much planning ahead of time. But yeah, it was all the one, like the stuff happening in the phones was basically one shot. All the moving between phones and stuff, we did that all in one go. We choreographed that, and then the overhead stuff we choreographed separately, kind of ahead of time, given what was filmed before. And yeah, but a lot went into it. But I think it would have been harder to do it any other way.
Yeah, you nailed it. It really, like I think I was even watching it last night again with my wife, and I was like, see, I think because of the Polaroid that's slowly developing through us, that I feel like that's like they couldn't fake that. So I feel like it has to be one shot. And then Trophy Deer, which Anthony, you sort of animated that one yourself, correct?
Yeah, basically what we did for those two videos was we divided the labor. So like Sam and Wes were working really hard on the Guilt video, and then John and I were working on the Trophy Deer video. So John drew all the backgrounds for it. I was working pretty hard. Okay, so John can speak for himself there.
No, you were.
Yeah, so he was doing the backgrounds for it and stuff, and he I mean, it was basically like, I mean, I got a huge head start on doing the animation and stuff, but like there definitely reached a point where I was like, man, there's all this hard work might not pay off. This might not look very good. And then when John started filling in the backgrounds and stuff was when I was like, oh no, this is going to be super sick. So, I mean, I could, whatever. It wouldn't have been, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as cool if it weren't a collaborative thing. But yeah, it's cool that it worked out that way. And that like we were able to kind of, we were able to see what the other dudes were doing and understand like what they were going for, but basically just trust them to do it, and just to involve us in whatever capacity they needed us to be involved in. And then they trusted us to do our thing. And it was really cool how it turned out that way. Both of those videos, I'm like, I can't believe, I mean, it really was like the four of us, we had some help from our friends, but it wasn't like we hired people to produce them or anything. Like we did those,
Yeah. We, it was interesting because with both videos, it was a little bit of a Hail Mary, like Anthony's first time animating, like Wes and I we did all the choreography for the physical phones moving around and the people in the phones, what they were going to do. Cause that was the 4 backdrops was in the same room.
Oh, okay.
With 4 cameras shooting at the same time. So that is happening at the same time. And we didn't know if either of the videos were going to work out really until they were pretty much done. Like when we looked back at the footage from Guild and Anthony, like, got all the backgrounds and patterns all together, and it was kind of just like fingers crossed. And then, holy shit, I can't believe we made this video. Like, I can't believe we made these. This is not, it's unprecedented for us to make something that cool. And I think both videos turned out really fucking cool.
They came out really cool, and they're radically different too. So it's not like you can tell that, like there's not a theme necessarily. There's not a look to them. They are radically different, which I guess speaks to sort of the Kali Masi thing. There's a lot going on in both of them, but they are radically different.
We tried to have like references to like each video in each other video in some small way. And I mean, just to it's not like super overt, but there are little nods. If you watch all 4 of them, you kind of notice there's some continuity just because we knew they were going to be so different from one another,
Yeah. Do you think that the idea to make the videos and to have them as sort of involved as they were sort of came out of quarantine and having less other things that you could be doing, so that sort of forces you to focus on a different part of like the album run up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we roundtabled it. We like literally sat in a round table, like we literally sat around a round table, and we're just like, let's think of some video ideas. And we actually filmed the Freer video first. That was the first one we filmed. Like right when we got done, I don't even know if we had final mixes of the record, but we did that video first, and we were like, "This is gnarly! Can't believe we did that." And then we started like kind of plotting with these other videos. I think we did the Stray second, and yeah. And that the whole concept behind the Stray was like, if you watch all our videos from Wind Instrument, they're like super like there's masks and fucking stuff like all sorts of like stuff, props and squirrely, but like it's like very art-y.
Yeah.
And then we were like, make a video of us rocking out, kind of like a sweaty rock band video. And then from there it got out of hand.
I sort of referenced the record release stream that you guys put together with, I guess with Corey and the Booze Cruise sort of people, did they kind of frame it out? But you guys knocked that thing out of the park. You had, and it was interesting. I liked the fact that you had not just a bunch of guys playing acoustic guitars for, because there's been a like I've overdosed on that through quarantine. Like, so you had comics, you had Deanna from Sincere Engineer. It was this really cool and eclectic sort of bill. Where did that sort of idea germinate from, and how long did it take to pull it all together to what we ended up seeing?
We weren't gonna do a record release show, or we had like kind of like thrown the idea around for a while, and then it was like 2 weeks before the album came out. And they hit us up and asked if we want to do it, and we were like, all right, we got exactly 2 weeks. Sometimes things turn out cool when you're under a lot of pressure. And we just kind of mass texted a bunch of friends to see if they wanted to contribute like a bunch of different things, and like threw around ideas, and it worked out really, really, really well.
Yeah, the whole thing about we were basically like, we're not gonna do this because we can't make it cool, you know. I mean, there's no point in doing it if it's not going to be really cool. And then somehow, I don't know, we're like idiots, like seeing shiny things and stuff. So like we were just like, yeah, no, like we don't want to compromise our like artistic, you know, integrity and just throw together some bullshit just because that's what everyone's doing. And then Booze Cruise hit us up. And we're like, do you want to do an album release? And we were like, yeah. And so we all like, it was sort of like out of necessity. We were just like, okay, this can't be fucking lame, because we just worked so hard on this record, and like, we can't, you know, the release for it has to be at least somewhat commensurate to like how hard we worked on, you know, the record and the artwork and just putting this whole package together. And I think, yeah, it just kind of came down to like, well, there are no rules for what this is supposed to be like, you know. I mean, a lot of people put live streams, and this is not a knock on what other people do for live streams, but we were just like, this doesn't have to be like your typical show, you know what I mean? Right. It doesn't just have to be like us and two other bands doing like acoustic sets or whatever. And so we just kind of got all hands on deck. I mean, the reason that it was as cool as it was is just because we have so many awesome friends that were down to throw in whatever capacity, some small, some big. Like, you know, some people came through in like a huge way, like really, really short notice. And yeah, I mean, it just speaks to the community we've been able to be a part of.
I was skeptical of the comedians, like how well that would work, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
it worked out.
Yeah, as one of them, and I forget his name off the top of my head, but as one of them pointed out, that it is a little weird to have stand-up comedy not in front of tens of people, but in front of just like his buddy that's sitting on a couch and a phone or whatever he's talking into. It's like it's an interesting thing to watch. So I watch Conan a lot, and so Conan's been doing his show from an empty theater, and he's got cardboard cutouts, and so he still tells his normal jokes, and it's just silent afterwards. And it's a really weird thing to wrap your head around. Like, somebody's giving comedy, and you just have to laugh when it's funny, not because other people are laughing. It's a really sort of different world for comedy. That's got to be really hard for them.
That was Winslow's set, and he even said, like, I mean, he was like, yeah, he filmed it, and he was like, he emailed me and was like, I don't know, man, it's really weird. Like, are you sure this is what you want? And I was like, dude, I promise you, it's better than you think it is. Right. Just send it to me. Let me see it. I mean, they all felt that way. I mean, and I even put it out there. Like, I hit up all the comedians and was just like, you know, I know that this is like a weird ask, but do you want to do this? And they were all kind of like, it's not that weird. And then they did it, and they were like, that was weird. And, you know, but I think they turned out really good. They were all such good sports for doing it. It was literally just to humor me. I was the only person that wanted that. Everyone else like could take it or leave it. But I was like, it's called Laugh. We gotta have comedians. And like, I love that it.
I didn't even make that connection. So
wow,
like,
John.
the later, and I was like, oh, okay.
I just realized that like the reason why, because we were like, I think the reason why we got so many people on board too was we were like, hey, play one song or two songs or just tell a story. It doesn't do whatever you want. Like we don't care. You don't, no time limit. Like take as much or as little time. And I just realized the only reason that sets are like 20 to 30 minutes in the first place is because like that's the like shortest amount of time you can use to like justify moving that amount of shit. You have to set it down and then you're like, the only like we have to leave it there for like at least 20 fucking minutes. There's nothing to move around on the live set, so it doesn't matter.
True.
Yeah, and
no one
I
has
think
to drive anywhere.
I think some of the people that have done the best job with some of these sort of live stream productions throughout quarantine are doing exactly that. Like there's not really rules necessarily. Like you said, you do as many songs as you want or as few songs as you want or shoot the shit for a while. I think that that's sort of what, at least for me, makes things interesting. Because I mean, I have a beard and flannel and play an acoustic guitar. I don't need to see 47 of them at the same time staring back at me. So I like when there's things that are sort of different like that. But the comedy piece is not a thing that like, I don't think I've watched any stand-up comedy that's just been to somebody's cell phone or computer screen since quarantine started. It gives this really weird sort of dystopian thing to it.
I love how it worked out though. I think it turned out really cool. And yeah, like I said, everyone was such a good sport about it. I mean, it took some like cajoling because there were a couple other comedians that we asked who were like, that sounds great. And then they were like, never mind, that doesn't sound great at all. And my friend Mo, who did her set from the shower,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if she was going to send me a set or not, but that was my whole thing was just like, look, it can be anything you want. You can tell old jokes while you're making breakfast tomorrow morning, as long as you're just filming it on your phone and you send it to me, and that'll be fine. And I was not expecting Mo to come through with that, and it was but I think that a lot of people. I mean, a lot of the musicians did similar things too, where it was just like, oh, like I can just do whatever, you know what I mean? Right. This is not a high pressure situation for, and they killed it.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. I don't want to take up too much of your time. What's next for Kali Masi? I know that there are tour dates that we sort of hinted at before in Germany and the UK and places like that in November and December, but is that the next official thing that's on the docket or that you're allowed to talk about anyway?
Manager, he does everything. So Wes, you gotta let us know.
That's not true. I booked one show and it did not go well.
No. So, I just mean
100% of my shows are bad. I know.
You're our boss.
So before we're scheduled to play Fest.
You are scheduled for Fest, right? Yeah, I did know that.
I think so. Yes, and then so that's like right before, and then right after we have the the Europe tour. But otherwise, nothing planned. I mean, I think we've talked about maybe trying to line something up if things are comfortable and feeling good in Chicago. But otherwise, I think Fest is technically the next like thing.
Mm-hmm. That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild because it's still 6.5 months away or some shit.
I hope we continue to talk about future plans with this much uncertainty. Like we're scheduled to play Fest. We'll see.
Wes might be getting married in the fall.
That's true.
Yeah, we're scheduled to be married.
Yeah.
That's that's what's next for Kali Masi is.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Congratulations, Wes.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the people that live upstairs from me, they got married in October of last year, and it was that whole like, do we push it back? Do we not push it back? So they had a really small, like almost virtual wedding essentially, and that just like,
wow,
to me that's like heartbreaking. Like, like you spend all this time and money, frankly, and then you get married over Zoom. And it's one thing to talk like this over Zoom. It's getting married over Zoom and your relatives all across the country is That's heartbreaking to me.
Oh yeah.
I think that this entire last year has just been about making the best of this like unprecedented situation and trying to be positive in whatever way you can. And, you know, I mean, yeah, a lot, you know, you think about all the things that people have like wanted to celebrate over the last, I wouldn't compare our album release show, for example, to like a wedding, but like that's, you know, it's an occasion that we felt was like a momentous thing that we wanted to celebrate. We definitely didn't get to do it in the way that maybe we would have otherwise, but you know, I think that you just have to, I don't know, make not just make do, but like really think outside the box and make the best out of, you know, this like just insane situation that has been thrust upon everybody. So I think people getting married on Zoom's fucking tight, man. I mean, you know, it might have been better than a real wedding for all.
Yeah,
we know,
well, then
you know?
they plan to have their real wedding, I think, this year too. So then they get to do it all.
Nice.
Again.
Hell yeah.
I do think that there are some holdovers from the sort of Zoom quarantine era that I hope might actually stay on. Like there's more people that probably got to see your album release show, even though it wasn't a show, than would have been there in person, right? And the people from all around the country and theoretically the world got to watch your album release show. Which is a different sort of cool thing than packing a club and getting it all sweaty. And I know that there's obviously merit in that and whatever, but it also, I think that there's some part of this culture that the creative people like on your side of the screen have come up with that I think hopefully hold over at least at some level. I mean, obviously we all want real shows again and real tours again and stuff, but I'm glad that some of this stuff has existed.
Yeah. I think referring to it as the Zoom era just like got me feeling a type of way, but I think you're right. I think this has been an era of community and like entertainment in some way, and that's pretty wild to think about. And it has to have like a ripple effect on what we do in the future, because it's shown us, hopefully, I mean, you know, that there are way more possibilities for the way that we can do things than we previously gave any credit to, you know.
Have you been writing still throughout quarantine, or has the sort of events of the last year bled into ideas that you have ruminating in terms of new material going forward, or you just kind of waiting to get out and playing laughs to the people before you worry about writing again?
We've just been trying to get good at playing the new songs. I don't know. I'm stoked to like start cracking away at some new stuff again soon. But like, I don't know. For me, from writing, I know everybody in this band plays music, so everybody probably has a different answer. But like, I have not felt like writing anything during this time, really. You know,
it's been pretty uninspiring, just uneventful.
Yeah. Or too many events. Like it's been overwhelmingly eventful for some people, and then like you can't really can't necessarily make sense of how to sift through it all while you're going through it. You need a little bit of detachment from it in order to sort of process what you just went through.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's sort of numbing right now, though. You know, I mean, it doesn't feel. Yeah, it feels like I mean, personally, just very removed from a lot of what's happening, and it's kind of hard to, you know, I don't know, but I'm sure that Sam's always got. Sam is extremely. He's a very thoughtful person, so he says he's not working on stuff, but in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think you're muted. Anthony.
I think that whatever is happening currently, we're on our way to making something else.
How often are you guys able to get together and work on the stuff from Laughs? Like, when did you actually start making it sound like it sounds on the record? Are you able to get together every week, or have you all been vaccinated at this point? Or I don't know how that shit works in Chicago.
Yeah, we get together twice a week.
Oh, okay.
Mondays and Thursdays.
But we can't pull up a night man asks us to podcast.
Yeah.
But this is
true.
our band practice tonight, just hanging with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. It would have been interesting, I guess, in hindsight, to do the interview from one of your phones, like in the practice room, and just pass it around.
Yeah.
That could have been something. Yeah, we're just we get together like once a week and try to keep in touch.
Did you go? How long did you go, or was there a big chunk of time in there where you didn't get together at all, or have you
Right.
stayed
Yeah.
pretty regular?
Yeah, right when we finished recording the record, we came back, practiced once, and then like real shutdown happened. And I think we didn't really see each other until when was our next practice? Like July or August or something like that?
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
we got together in like May or June or whatever to clear out our old practice space, and that
I
was
remember that.
like a momentous thing that we were like, I mean, Sam wasn't. I think Sam had to work or something like that. But me and John and Wes were all in the same place for like the first time, like 2 or 3 months, and it was like momentous.
Yeah, that was weird.
Super weird, especially because like I mean, since I joined this band, we've been pretty like inseparable. We've seen each other at least once or twice a week, like nonstop for like a couple of years. And sometimes for like literally nonstop for like weeks at a time on tour and stuff like that. So that was definitely like kind of wild. And so I think it reached a point where we were like, we just got to start. If we're going to socialize in one way, then we should, it was a no brainer for me that it was going to be with the band,
Did we move out of Empty Bliss into Superior Street?
No,
Yeah.
I think we didn't have a space for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Empty Bliss flooded, and then we just had to move our shit.
Yeah.
That was a whole nother thing, is we like lost a ton of our gear.
I was going to say, did you lose anything in a flood? That's crazy.
Yeah. Prior to recording. Right?
No,
Am I
it was
time-
after.
After recording.
So
Yeah.
our old practice space flooded twice, and once was before we recorded the album, and the other time was after we recorded the album. So
Wow.
like that's why it's
Feet
confusing.
of
Yeah,
sewage.
feet of water. We
Really?
like had like several $1,000s worth of gear trashed. But people like the people who run the space started like a GoFundMe, and they raised the money in like a day. They're awesome people. It totally was not like their fault that it happened or anything, and they took care of what all. We're definitely not like we didn't get like particularly fucked in that situation. We were really, really, really lucky that it worked out. It did.
Damn.
I just forgot about that. Sorry for bringing it up. I was like, what? Was that last year? What a fucking year.
Mhm.
Like that's like the reason that I think that for a lot of bands, when something really unfortunate like that happens, it's like, they like reasonably so talk about it for like years afterwards. And it's such a footnote for us because like we got so taken care of by the whole thing that it doesn't seem worth. The only reason that it's even worth bringing up is like to bring up how again fucking awesome the people that we know are, and how much support like we have from people. I mean, that was awesome. That really just gave me a lot of faith in what we were doing. So yeah, but it wasn't like a woe is us kind of situation, like at all. We got really, really lucky overall from that. So
It's just another reason 2020 was a shitty year, quite literally in your case.
yeah.
We're at the hour mark. I don't want to take up your whole night, although I know you canceled practice. The album, as I said before, is called Laughs. I'll hold it up again. I'll pretend I'm Conan or whatever. And it comes with, so I think that this is awesome because it's like Tiger Beat style from the 1980s
Yes.
or whatever. Who's like albums don't come with fold out posters anymore. That's badass. But where did that come from? I think that was brilliant.
We just
Sam, that had
wanted
to have
like
been
a
your
cool
idea.
insert.
No bands like, okay, a lot of the shit that I feel like we are always like concocting has to do with like, oh man, no bands like us are gonna put a full fold out like boy band poster of themselves in the like that. Just I don't know. It just seemed like a subversive good idea.
It's like I feel like it hasn't been done since like the 80s rock, like arena rock days, like hair metal bands and shit would do it, and then it kind of went away for a while because punk rockers take themselves too seriously or whatever. But I think that was fucking awesome, and I didn't know if it was an intended thing or if it was just sort of like, oh no, it's just a picture that was a poster. But I was like, that's fucking
We're just trying to convince people that we're good enough of a band to have a poster. So to do that, we just made a poster of ourselves and slipped it into the
I was gonna start the show with this just like on the wall behind me. I feel like that was an opportunity missed at this point. Thank you for doing this, gentlemen. Thank you for getting all four of you together. This has been a lot of fun for me, and like I said, we've blown through an hour, so I don't want to take up too much of your evenings.
Like I said, man, it's really nice meeting you, dude.
Yeah, likewise. And